To answer your question, like I was a nobody coming into the show, you know. So for me to get that opportunity, I was like, thank you very much. I'll gladly accept it. Appreciate it. Perfect. I wasn't in any position whatsoever to say like, oh yeah, do I like this character? Do I not? No, no. To me, that was like, okay, I'm going to be an actor on Vikings. Are you kidding me? Okay, yeah, that's a solid yes. So I didn't even know what character I was going to play in the beginning when we started auditioning. My first audition was like just a regular self tape. You know, I put my camera up, I record myself speaking, weird accents and doing weird lines about blood and terror and stuff like that. And apparently it worked. So I got to a second edition. And then the third edition was, we were like 14 guys getting invited to Dublin, where we shot the whole thing and lived. And for those 3.5 years, I was on Vikings. So we were sitting there, 14 guys, looking at each other like, are you my competitor or my future colleague? You know, it was intense. It was an intense audition session. But yeah, I was auditioning for all the brothers. I had no clue who I was going up for. That came natural because you're in a tense situation. I remember that. I remember just coming into the room, and Michael Hurst is there, our creator, and the director that's gonna shoot the next two episodes, and just all these like heavy dudes. Like you can see they're important, and you're like, okay, I'm just a Danish dude. I'm not even comfortable speaking English, but let's just go. Well, just as you said, all the ups and downs. That's always fun for an actor to get into because he's complicated, and that's always so much fun to take on as an actor because you always have to defend that dude, even how tough he makes that job for you. Because I mean, at one point in time in season 6, when he started burning people for a living, I was like, Michael Hurst, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to? How am I supposed to make people still kind of love him and kind of like him? But every single time it's a challenge. That's when it gets fun, and it was a lot of fun. I'll tell you that. I need to be because I need to constantly understand him and never judge him, and if I struggle with that, the audience will absolutely 100% too. So I have to be that last line of defense, so to speak. So I need to always like, okay, why is he doing this? Oh, maybe he's blinded by love. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. That I understand, and that I can act, and that I can play, and that just changes how you say a line. Instead of saying a line one way, you all of a sudden say that line with a question mark in the end of it to and put emphasis on him and how troubled he is and what he's struggling with. And yeah, no, it's all those little teeny tiny bits and pieces here and there, all the devil's in the details, really. And that's also what makes this job really fun. Oh, I wish they would have gotten, I would have received them at least like a month before shooting. But that was never the case. It was always maybe a week, if we were very lucky, 2 weeks. And that was while we were still shooting the current episodes. So you were still, rehearsing that massive monologue or speech you had to the people that you still needed to shoot. And while you were rehearsing that, on your own, you got all the scripts coming in for the next 2 episodes, and you forget about the monologue because you wanna figure out what's going on in the next episode, who's getting killed, am I still alive, all that stuff, and it was tough because you had to juggle a lot of different things at one time, and yeah, sometimes it was pretty darn frustrating because yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. Yeah, no, it's like I think it's because he's an anti-hero. I personally love anti-heroes, like Walter White, Breaking Bad, and like he's one of my favorites all time. And you like rooting for somebody who's not 100% perfect all the time because no shit, Sherlock. We as human beings are not perfect all the time. So I just think it reflects a more accurate image of who we are as people as well.
Right.
That's why I prefer Batman over Superman. You get my point. It's like he's way more flawed than Superman is, and hey, that's for all the geeks out there, but including me. But I love that he's complicated,
Yeah.
and every single time you create a complicated character that has a lot of depth to him, then you challenge the audience and you force the audience to always try to question him and ask themselves what they think about him and his actions and why is he doing what he's doing, and all that is just keeping people activated and engaged to the story and the character, and I think that's what it's all about. That's
Yeah.
my job, to keep people engaged in the story. I got a few, man. Um, Obviously, there's the obvious one, the yelling Icelandic in the rain with blood in my face in York. "Þú kan ikke drepa mig," that whole thing. You
Yeah.
can't kill me scene. I love that one. That was epic. It was tons of fun. I was 22 years old when I shot that thing, so I was like, I was still a young gun. So for me to shoot that scene was like, oh, I really enjoyed that a lot. That was the dude in me loved that thing. Um, there's another scene that's really close to my heart, which is a scene in, I think, season 5, part 2. I don't know, episode 18 or something like that, where he's in the woods and he's saying goodbye to his child, his little boy, Balder, which it was just such an interesting scene because it was very heartfelt and he was super honest, and it was just great to see him be so vulnerable. And I live for those scenes because as you said yourself, half of the time he is, you know, doing epic stuff that's crazy and killing people and yelling and screaming and all that. And I personally, I kind of almost live more for the quiet and the quiet moments, the solo moments, the still moments where he's just in his own head and thinking and struggling and yeah, yeah, having a hard time. I love that. I love that scene because it was just real. It was just real. I understand why he does not understand love because I mean his mom suffocated him with too much love. His dad wasn't there. That's a lack of love. The brothers is tough love. Um, his wife was misunderstood love in a way. It was real love. She was the only one who really looked at him in a way that no one ever seen him before, and he loved that. But he was still blinded by the love to her, so she could completely manipulate him, and it turned into a capital D disaster. And from there on, I think when we started shooting season 6, I was like, I think he's given up on that thing. I think he's I actually had a lot of discussions with Michael about this, and the directors as well. You know, trying to find him as a sociopath and not a psychopath, because he understands emotions and he has a lot of them, and he understands love and he has empathy and all that. And that's also the reason why it was great in, you know, shooting season 6, that we kind of turned that up a notch. You know, showing the human side of him, that was really important to me. And yeah, I think he gave up on it, but he still has all of the emotions and he absolutely understands them. He's not just a crazy guy. He's
Right.
not a god. I never believed him to be a god, because I know, I knew that he knew better. And also I think he's an actor. He's more broken on the outside. No, on the inside than he is on the outside, actually. I've always thought that. So the whole I'm a god, I'm a god, I'm a god thing was just, it was all fake. It was defense mechanism. It was interesting. It was interesting. I loved it. I was backing our creator, Michael, to, you know, take him down a notch, because throughout season 5, and especially the second part of season 5, where he had been king, he was challenging to like, and I was struggling to defend him, and we needed to, you know, to flip that around. And also, what, you know, a guy that suffers such a defeat, you know, he loses his wife, his throne, he loses everything. He's on the run. Of course, that leaves a mark, and of course, that makes you think. And he's smart enough to learn from his mistakes, but he's still Ivor the Boneless. So, you know, he's still planning all that stuff. So yeah, I love the whole storyline of coming to a whole new place and just start from the beginning. You know, it's a new beginning, and but it's the same Ivor, so he's still manipulating. He's still getting power very quickly, very easy, because he's so incredibly smart, but way smarter than I will ever be. But I was always amazed when I was reading the scripts. I was like, oh my god, I wish I could have seen that. But he was always way smarter than I would ever be. But yeah, I love season 6 because it showed the human side of him, but also he came a little bit more humble, and I loved that. So the ending is obviously that Ira dies in the last episode, and I was on top of that. That was partly my idea. I loved for him to go out with a bang. And if the show was ending, I was like, why? Well, so I'm just going to live and not have a death scene, which is probably one of the most coolest things and fun things to shoot as an actor. No, Michael, you're going to write me a death scene. So, you know, we agreed to that, and it felt like a fitting ending. And I really talked a lot with Michael about, you know, him being scared in the end, because I love the idea of him showing himself to be extremely human in
Right.
his very last moment, which I think all of us would be. And and you know, he's the guy who has been, you know, yelling I'm a god" all the time, and I love the contrast of him showing who he really was in the very end, and you know, being afraid, because I think that's all that we are. Of
Yeah.
course, we're going to be afraid. It's a natural human moment, and I wanted him to be human in the end. I wanted him to turn into that little boy that we all are, and and that's who he really is, and how I've always seen him. And I really needed him to show that in that very last moment. It was a beautiful moment between two brothers. It was an honest moment, and I like honesty. I was bawling my eyes out. I
Yeah.
was crying for the entire day, and because that's all that's the end of 3.5 years and 51 episodes. It was a very intense period of my time. It was a very intense period of my life and a very intense time at that moment in my life. And it had been extremely challenging, and I was so happy to go, but I knew I was gonna miss my entire family, because that's what it was. It turned out to be my family. That's what happens when you work so closely for that long. But I have to say that was the very last scene, and it was magical because you finish your show with your death scene, and after that you're like, okay, yeah, I guess it is really over. And I get a mic, I get a shield that everyone wrote their little messages on. I'm crying. Everyone's gathering around in a circle, and I'm all of a sudden in the spot, and I get super nervous, even though it's a regular day, and we got 300 extras on set and 200 crew members and all that. That's a regular day, and performing in front of them is not a problem. But when it turns personal and you're in there in a very private moment, so to speak, because it was private to me, it was honest, and it was my last day. So I probably talked a lot of shit and just said thank you, and then I cried, and somebody took the mic away from me, because it was about to end that talk. So yeah, that was pretty much my last scene and my last day. And I didn't understood what was happening until 14 days later, when I was back home in Denmark, and I was like, oh, wow, what was that? Ah, ah. Can I just pick anyone, and it wouldn't matter, my age or how I look or anything like that? Okay. Then Lagatha. No, probably. Well, she could be one. She could be one, actually. But I think Floki, because I love Floki, and I love Gustav as well, who plays Floki. I love the witty, crazy, and this weird universe that he created, that he just invites people into, and I love that. Gustav did such a good job, and I love that. Oh, I would go Floki, or Floki, or Lagatha, or Ragnar, or King Egbert is one of my favorites as well. I loved Linus Roach. He did a phenomenal job with that. Wow, such a great actor. That's also the beautiful thing about this job, is you get to work with some pretty darn cool people.